Organizations everywhere are achieving massive AI adoption, right? But here's the paradox. They are completely failing to capture the promised return on investment. Sure, access is widening and productivity gains look fantastic on the surface, but that foundational financial promise? It's totally locked. So in this explainer, we're going to deconstruct exactly why current operational models are violently misaligned with the tech itself. We'll lay out the empirical blueprint you absolutely need to unlock that systemic value. Let's get right into it.
59%. That is the number of organizations today deploying a fatally flawed, purely technology-focused approach to artificial intelligence. They're operating under this really dangerous assumption that just slamming an advanced algorithm into a legacy workflow is going to automatically generate a competitive advantage. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. This majority is aggressively pushing software integration, all while completely ignoring the human architecture that's actually required to sustain it.
Okay, let's dive into this consequence, because it's staggering. These tech-obsessed deployments are 1.6 times more likely to fail to realize their expected returns compared to human-centric approaches. Think about that. When leadership prioritizes the software over the actual human operators meant to guide it, they're literally engineering their own underperformance. Ignoring the human element just guarantees a massive systemic barrier to realizing any meaningful return on capital.
And this brilliantly illustrates a harsh reality. The era of mere AI experimentation is officially dead. The market no longer rewards testing and isolated proof of concepts. We've hit a massive inflection point where the pressure for mass-scale, ubiquitous adoption is already here. The dialogue in the boardroom has rapidly shifted from, hey, can we build this? To how quickly can we scale it, and where is the financial return? To understand why this pressure is so intense right now, we really have to look at the data constraints. You know the classic S-curve of growth, right? It historically allowed for a gradual lift, some rapid acceleration, and then an eventual plateau. Well, that curve is violently compressing. The timeline between planning and execution is just collapsing entirely, and the plateau is arriving faster than ever before. Organizations are basically being forced upward, compelled to jump to the next growth curve way before their internal systems are even ready. Predictable execution cycles are a thing of the past. Real-time adaptation is literally your only survival metric now.
Section 1. Deep dive analytical postmortem, deconstructing the tipping points and the 3 Rs. See, the operational pressures on organizations are no longer sequential, they're compounding. The old baseline was just simple addition, humans working side by side with machines. But that model is entirely obsolete. The new mandate demands multiplication. We're talking about human times machine. Organizations have to redesign work to harness multiplicative human-machine synergy. It requires a fundamental rewiring of how tasks actually get done, moving way past the idea of machines as mere tools, and integrating them as active operational counterparts specifically designed to amplify human capability. But this synergy triggers a second tipping point. The relentless pursuit of automation solely to cut costs, that's a massive trap on this compressed S-curve. Efficiency mandates absolutely must be aggressively converted into reinvestment and capability scaling. The organizations that win won't be the ones that just automate the fastest to reduce headcount. No, they'll be the ones that channel that newfound efficiency directly into entirely new forms of value creation and dynamic growth.
So the crucial point is, to survive this, we have to systematize it. The data maps out 3 sequential, non-negotiable milestones: reimagination, redistribution, and return. First, you have to completely reimagine the business model and processes. Second, you redistribute the work by carefully bifurcating tasks. And it's only through the optimal coupling of those first 2 steps that you finally reach the third step, actual financial return.
This exposes a massive systemic error leaders are making globally. They expect financial returns before fundamentally reimagining their workflow architectures. The R in return on AI investment is the third R, not the first. Actually, scratch that. It's more like the final destination. Attempting to extract financial gains without first doing the heavy lifting of process reimagination and task redistribution, that just guarantees a high-friction, incredibly low-yield deployment.
Executing that middle phase, redistribution, requires some exact vocabulary. Work has to be filtered from a central node and split into 2 distinct pipelines. On one side, you have humans providing cognitive judgment, adaptivity, and creativity. On the other, you have your agentic digital workforce. These are the digital entities, the bots, handling pure execution and automated tasks alongside us. Clearly defining the boundary between them is exactly how you achieve optimal coupling, or in simpler terms, making sure they actually play nice together.
Section 2. The hidden friction. The rising cost of cultural debt.
Because, let's be real, redistribution doesn't happen in a vacuum.
As organizations compress their timelines to adopt all these tools, they're inadvertently accumulating massive operational liabilities. The data calls this the rising cost of cultural debt. When we systematically catalog the vulnerabilities on this ledger, the risks are severe. Having humans and algorithms sharing authority deeply destabilizes traditional operational safety. We're seeing a really dangerous blurring of decision-making authorship, escalating disinformation security gaps, and a rapidly accelerating erosion of organizational trust. When workers start questioning accountability and fairness in an AI-driven system, cohesion deteriorates at the exact moment agility is needed the most.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it forces a massive architectural question onto your own accountability structures. When a highly sophisticated algorithm generates a critical business recommendation, who truly owns the risk? Who decides when the algorithm acts and when the human intervenes? If those lines of authority are blurred, your entire governance model is fundamentally compromised.
Section 3. Tactical Action Plan and System Gates. The shift to dynamic orchestration.
Surviving this compressed timeline means completely shifting away from static planning. Legacy workforce strategies relied heavily on highly structured jobs and fixed talent pools, while that model shatters under real-time market shifts. The mandatory new standard is dynamic orchestration. This approach demands the continuous, real-time configuration of your capacity to meet unpredictable, constantly shifting demands. Defining this target operational state is absolutely critical. Dynamic orchestration means deconstructing siloed human resources, IT, and finance functions. Those traditional departments are simply way too slow and rigid. Instead, capabilities, people, skills, data, and technology must be fluidly reassembled purely around value creation and specific outcomes, completely abandoning those rigid organizational charts. Let's move to and see how this builds into the ultimate realization. AI technology is completely replicable. Your competitors, they have access to the exact same algorithms, the exact same processing power, and the same digital agents that you do. Therefore, the technology itself is no longer your differentiator, it's just table stakes. Human adaptivity, creative friction, and complex judgment, those are literally the only remaining defensible moats your enterprise actually has.
The boundary between planning and execution has entirely collapsed. The next curve isn't out there on the horizon somewhere. It is unfolding right now, in real time. So the question you have to answer is this: will you allow your organization to remain tethered to an obsolete model of cost efficiency, or will you fundamentally rebuild your deployment frameworks to orchestrate your unique human edge? The choice is entirely yours.